Ababa, the Ethiopian capital. Spokesman to Shatima Stanley Nkocha stated that the summit would hold from July 27 to July 29. Already the Vice President has departed Abuja for the East African country where he is representing Nigeria. The high-level summit, convened in collaboration with the governments of Ethiopia, Italy and the United Nations, will bring together world leaders to assess progress since the inaugural 2021 edition and to chart pathways for building resilient, inclusive and sustainable global food systems. Shatima is expected to join other heads of state and senior officials in discussions focused on transforming critical value chains, including an emphasis on the coffee industry as well as advancing Nigeria's ongoing food security and agricultural innovation agenda. He is scheduled to return to Nigeria at the conclusion of the summit's activities. The Senate has debunked reports suggesting a clash between the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, and the Senate leader, Opeyemi Bamidele, during a recent executive session. The chairman of the Senate Committee on Media and Public Affairs, Senator Yemi Adaramodu, who made the clarification in a statement, described the claims as baseless and misleading. Adaramodu insisted that the reports misrepresented standard legislative processes as signs of internal discord. According to the Senate spokesperson, vigorous debates remain a hallmark of parliamentary democracy and does not indicate disunity among members. Adaramodu stressed that the deliberations, whether in plenary or committee sessions, should not be mistaken for personal altercations or signs of division within the Senate leadership. The factional interim national chairman of the Labour Party, Senator Nenadi Usman, has claimed that the All Progressives Congress-led government has impoverished Nigerians more than any previous administration in the country's history. Senator Usman described the level of suffering across the nation as intolerable. Speaking to newsmen in Kaduna State, Usman assured that the Labour Party was committed to correct what she described as the grave missteps and failures of the APC-led federal government. She urged the citizens to believe in the Labour Party, just as she assured that the party was committed to offering a credible people-centered alternative that will restore hope and reclaim the nation's dignity. On the issue of the wave of defections from the Labour Party and other opposition party members to the ruling APC, Senator Usman described the trend as not only legally questionable, but morally indefensible to ride to power on the back of a party and defect after victory. Despite the defections, she insisted that the Labour Party remained unshaking, adding that the party draws its strength from the unwavering support of the Nigerian people. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, has expressed frustration over the prolonged deadlock in its renegotiation with the federal government on the key issues affecting university lecturers and the education sector. Speaking in an interview with newsmen in Jos, the Plateau State capital, ASU President Professor Chris Bewuna said the union had run out of patience with the government's failure to take concrete action despite years of promises and discussions. Bewuna emphasized that the union's demands are clear and well articulated, citing the 2009 agreement with the government, which outlines crucial matters such as conditions of service, university autonomy, academic freedom, sustainable funding, and earned academic allowances. The ASU president noted that issues such as infrastructural decay, staff demoralization, cultism, and the declining quality of education at universities can best be addressed through increased funding and improved remuneration for lecturers. Piwana also underscored the importance of including non-teaching staff in salary reviews, stating that doing so would promote harmony and stability within the university system. He warned that the government must be prepared to face the consequences of its continued inaction. The Federal High Court in Abuja has declared the National Youth Service Corps refusal to allow female corps members to wear skirts in observance of their religious beliefs as unconstitutional and a breach of the fundamental right to freedom of religion. In a judgment delivered on June 13, 2025, a certified true copy of which was cited by newsmen on Sunday, Justice Hawa Yuwa held that the NYSC's enforcement of trousers as the only acceptable uniform for female participants violated the constitutionally guaranteed rights to freedom of religion and human dignity. The cases, initially filed separately by former corps members Ogunjobi Blessing and Ayuba Vivian, were later consolidated due to their legal similarities and adjudicated together by Justice Yuwa. In the suits, the applicants argued that being compelled to wear trousers contradicted their Christian faith, citing Deuteronomy 22 verse 5, which they interpret as prohibiting women from wearing garments associated with men. The applicants in their separate suits had sought the enforcement of their fundamental rights to freedom of religion, alleging that these rights had been violated by the respondents. Listed as respondents in the suits were the National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, and the Director General of the NYSC. You're listening to the World News on Today 95.1 FM, Voice of the People. After the break, more news, foreign and sports stories. Do stay with us.
Every day, every hour, when the big stories break, depend on our 24-hour news team to bring you the latest. Today, 95.1 FM.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Now the rest of our stories. Recent findings by the Institute of Research, Leadership and Capacity Development have revealed a steady decline in the economy of River State. The Chief Executive Director of the Institute, Professor George Ahunanya, revealed this in an interview with Today FM's Sandro Kenneth, where he expressed concern that the vision of the founding fathers of the state was being undermined by poor policy decisions. Professor Ahunanya also observed that despite oil being a major unifying factor and a stable source of revenue for Nigeria, River State has not experienced commensurate development and benefits from its resources. He added that a prolonged political crisis in the state, along with the recent claims of its resolution, has continued to create an atmosphere of uncertainty for investors. Professor Ahunanya further warned that reference to a state of emergency could be misinterpreted by potential investors, possibly resulting in capital flight and increased migration.
Know that the recent study we are doing at the Institute of Research, Leadership and Capacity Development reveals that Nigeria is staying together because of the oil. And all of this, River State today is become a laughing stock, almost losing her pride and glory in the committee of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And of course, the reason is because of political rascality, egocentrism, and greed. We are the ones losing. I call on the sons and daughters of the elite class, political class, let's have a return, come together.
And on the foreign scene, dozens of people have been killed in an attack by an Islamic State affiliate in Northeastern Democratic Republic of Congo. About 20 of the dead were worshippers taking part in a night vigil. In a vigil at a church in the town of Komanda, when they were attacked by Allied Democratic Forces ADF fighters. Nearby shops and businesses were looted and set on fire. The ADF emerged in Uganda in the 1990s, accusing the government there of persecuting Muslims, but is now based over the border in DR Congo, where it regularly attacks civilians of all religions as well as in Uganda. It has since become part of the Islamic State's Central African province, which also includes a group in Mozambique. According to research by BBC Monitoring, nearly 90% of IS operations are now carried out by affiliates in Africa. Elsewhere, Russia has begun direct commercial flights to North Korea, and a further sign of closer ties with its Asian ally, helping its offensive in Ukraine. According to the Sheremetyevo Airport's website, the first Moscow-Pyongyang flight operated by Russia's Nordwind Airlines took off today. It is scheduled to land in North Korean capital some 8 hours later. Russia's transport ministry said initially the route will only be serviced once a month. In sports, President Bola Tinubu will host the victorious Super Falcons and officials of the Nigerian female football team at the State House in Abuja tomorrow. The Super Falcons will arrive Nigeria from Morocco today. It is expected that the players and their officials would be rewarded handsomely by the president. President Tinubu had approved the payment of the team's outstanding bonuses and allowances on the eve of the Saturday's final with host Lionesses of Morocco. The Super Falcons rallied from 2 goals down to beat the North Africans 3-2 in the game. It was the 10th time they will be winning the WAFCON title. For ND News, here is a summary of the major stories. The Senate has denied any rift between Senate President Godswill Akpabio and Senator Opeyemi Bamidele. You heard that the Federal High Court in Abuja has ordered NYSC to allow skirts for female corps members. And on the foreign scene, we told you that Russia has commenced direct flights to North Korea. That was the news, as edited by Funaya Obemendukwe. For comments and inquiries, please call 0818 389-2850 or send your emails to news@todayfmlive.com. You can also read our stories on www.todayfmlive.com. My name is Queen Chima. Thank you so much for listening. Good evening.
Today's news, today's entertainment, today's sports, today's issues. Today on Today 95.1 FM, Port Harcourt.
Tune in for a journey beyond the ordinary.
Fasten your seatbelt.
We are not just a station, we are the station. Today, 95.1 FM, the voice of the people.
Maybe home is somebody's smile when they look at you for the first time. Maybe home is being a home to something you love and adore with all your heart, and that is what life, friendship, and love are all about. Maybe home is listening to all of your favorite shows on Today 95.1 FM. We create memories. We inspire comfort. We are the voice of the people, and we are home away from home.
Another one again, free time forever. Baby, it's a busy on deck. Oh. Sexy girls.
So we've come to a primary school.
Yes.
I mean, with little kids. And the idea here is we are actually going to be discussing proposals.
Yes. We have 5 classes today, and each one is going to show a different proposal, I think, about environment. Since they are very little, we put the focus inside the school, not around. Today we are going to see what they want and if it's possible to be implemented.
Okay, so we're talking here, but you only have 10 minutes until the assembly, so I'm going to help you put some things out.
Okay, thank you so much.
We set up the auditorium before around 100 excited kids sit down in rows. The parish president is sitting at the front of the hall with some large, colourful cards with words and pictures on them. He starts off with an easy win. The first group explain their 2 water fountains have stopped working, and President Valtes says the parish council can help, holding up a card that says it's possible.
Modificar e é possível.
Another group describes how they have to close the shutters in their class to stop other kids from peering in through their window and distracting them.
A solução: sensibilizar as restantes turmas.
Raise the room blinds and put a special film on the windows so that the fellow pupils don't look into the classroom, and to help spread natural light and reduce heat in the classrooms.
A luz natural e reduzir o calor nas salas.
The parish president is enthusiastic and responds by holding up a different card that says,
"We will analyse. I think it's an excellent idea, sincerely. When we have natural lights, we work in a different way. We work a lot better."
At the end of the assembly, the president congratulates the kids on engaging with the democratic process.
Assemblies are places where we can discuss things and express our opinions. We have the chance to present our problems, our concerns, and the Assembly has to resolve them. That is why they're important, be it a school assembly like this, a parish assembly, or any other.
So, Solange, the assembly is over. How did it go? Did it go as you expected?
I think it's a very positive when the children listen to the politicians. And
we had the head of the parish council, so when he was answering their questions, for example.
And he's here to listen to them. So I think the proposals were very great, and many of them were possible to be done. So now he's going to help them.
I managed to catch a few words with a teacher and one of her pupils on their way back to class. Can I ask your name?
Marta.
So you are the teacher of this class and oversaw the preparation that went into this. How was that?
Since January, we've been working on the My Polis project, and every week we'd do one of the activities, from the environment game to coming outside to explore our surroundings to see what was lacking. With all the discussions, the students have become more aware of what's going on around them.
Maria, do you agree?
Yes, the activities are fun. It's not just sitting in the classroom, it makes you think a lot.
It's really nice to hear the kids getting engaged with this and also to hear from the teachers. But Alison, as a whole, does this actually work?
Well, all the kids I talked to said they enjoyed it. Some were a bit nervous about the presentation, of course, but they did have some really good ideas. And Solange from My Polis told the kids after the session that they'd learned to do something many adults haven't. That's how to be proactive in solving something rather than just posting complaints about it on social media.
Right.
Another benefit is My Polis has designed the programme so it can be included as part of the national curriculum rather than as an add-on.
I suppose that should eventually have a bigger impact. But just to understand, how many schools is this happening in currently?
Well, Solange says she's been helping 16 different schools in the Lisbon area, but as an organisation as a whole, they're working with about 100 schools across the country this year. And more recently, they've started working in Italy, Hungary, Poland, Belgium and Mozambique.
Right. Well, it's good to know that this is happening in other places, but the thing that also really strikes me here is that politicians are actually listening to these kids and taking them seriously, giving them answers, because
politicians, as we know, can be hard to pin down.
Exactly, and that was why they created this game. The founder of My Polis, Bernardo Gonçalves, told me when they invited politicians to schools in the past, they would talk a lot, but not much got done. The cards mean that the politicians have to give direct answers. So even if the answer is no, they have to explain why they can't implement an idea.
And that's really key when we talk about democracy and democracy actually working well. Residents need to be active, yes, but the government also needs to be responsive to the people's needs.
Yes, and Bernardo says making the politicians accountable has made a big difference.
Before we used that game, we have maybe 3 or 4 of those were getting implemented, so that was a big issue for us. And after that game, 300 have been implemented so far.
Bernardo says he was inspired to set up My Polis when he was in his 20s because he was disappointed in the interaction he saw between political parties and younger people like him.
We have seen a quick erosion in the trusts of the population on the democratic institutions such as the national parliament, such as the government in office. We need to find new ways to connect children and young citizens to democratic institutions. Otherwise, the gap will get bigger and bigger. This is very dangerous for democracy.
He also said My Polis tries to go into schools which have a larger proportion of pupils from immigrant families, as they find they are less likely to engage with political representatives and democratic institutions. And certainly the schools that I visited had quite diverse communities.
And do they just do this in primary or junior schools?
No, they go into secondary or high schools as well, where they're a bit more ambitious with their solutions. Projects there have included building a sheltered bus stop for students lit by solar panels and setting up a youth festival to support local businesses. In fact, I went to a secondary school in Sintra to see them implement one of their proposals. One group of teenagers had noticed that the students in the school tended not to mix with kids from different ethnic backgrounds. I visited the school with Solange on a windy day to see their unique solution.
In the playground they are separated, English people here, Pakistan people here and Portuguese there, so they want to know more about each other. So they decided that it will be cool if they did some multicultural games, and they asked to the other students, what kind of game do you play in your country?
So this was a decision that they took using the process that My Polis applies?
This one, it was the most voted, so put everybody in the school playing the different games.
It was fairly chaotic, with groups of kids playing games all over the school grounds. At one point, I bumped into one teacher, Monica. They're going to where?
America.
Okay, so this is another patio in the school, and they are playing already another game.
We have this cornhole.
So they're throwing, what is it, like a bean bag into, they're trying to get it into a hole on the ground.
It's like that. Yeah. They are very happy.
I wandered inside to a room labelled Asia, where 2 teams were engaged in a game of tug-of-war. Back outside, I walked past a game of football, Europe, in case you're wondering. And I then met a student called Ariana, who was looking after one of the games from Africa. So, Ariana, you were involved in organising all of this, and you were overseeing the game just now. How did it go?
It went well. The kids were trying to win the game.
I was looking at who was taking part. How did that mix work?
It worked well. It was great to see Africans and Indians to be together, because that's not a thing we see in school, because they all are separate in different groups.
Does that always happen, that separation?
Always.
Oh dear. You need to do maybe more of these kind of exercises to change that.
Yes. Now I think after this day people are going to be together.
Solange, there's a lot going on at the moment.
I think the kids are very excited. It was their idea, so they are owner of the games and they are very proud of it. I saw people from India, from Africa, from Portugal, from Brazil, all together having fun, so that was the main purpose of the day.
Alison, it's good to see how this is having an impact on these kids and making them feel really empowered as well.
Yes, and it shows that there are some solutions that they can implement themselves without too much input from the local politician. Although in that case too, the parish president did turn up to support it.
Hopefully these kids can go on to make good politicians someday.
Well, it's interesting you should say that. I went to meet one MyPolis alumnus from another school called Jaden Gomes. He's only 22 years old, but he already chairs the assembly of his local parish council. Jaden moved with his family to Portugal from India when he was just 12. He became interested in local politics after his class did a MyPolis project when he was 16.
So I remember in my school we had the proposals about a paintball game and stuff like that. But there were also proposals for structures for abandoned cats and dogs. And it was interesting to see how different people had different priorities. And I think that space for discussing those priorities and actually coming to a consensus in a participative way was very important for all of us.
Can you say it was one of your inspirations?
For me, it was my first contact to the background of how a democratic process works. I realized how we can give voices to people who usually do not have voices.
I'm Myra Anubi, and you're listening to People Fixing the World from the BBC World Service. This week we're looking at projects in Portugal encouraging people to become active citizens. We've seen how MyPolis is using games to connect children to local democracy. But Alison, who's still with me, has a second scheme, and one that's focused on senior citizens.
That's right, Myra. This project has been running in Amadora near Lisbon for the past 10 years. It's called the Senior Academy for Civil Protection. Essentially, this academy teaches older volunteers about various disasters the region faces, such as flash floods and urban fires, and trains these senior agents, as they're known, to respond to them, and then to share that knowledge with their community. To find out more, I headed to a primary school in Amadora. I'm standing outside the school we're going to be visiting with Luis Carvalho, who is the head of civil protection in this municipality. Is that correct? You're the commander, with half a dozen of the senior agents. And so what will happen when we go in?
Yes, we have a drill with all the students in the school.
I also chat to some of the agents, including Olga Dias.
The main thing is we go into schools to see children that are still very small, and we give them ideas about civil protection in a simple way. When we give them this information, we know that they often pass it on at home. And we do other things too. For example, today we're going to do a fire drill, which is very important.
We head to the school library where the agents gather to be briefed on what they'll be doing during the drill. They then go to their assigned positions, some inside the school buildings, others in the playground, ready for the exercise to begin. As the alarm sounds, the kids pour out into the playground. As they line up in their classes, I speak to Agent Janeiro.
There are a series of procedures, like we must see if the kids are coming out in an orderly, calm way, have the teachers counted them, whether they left the door closed or open.
The children did a good job today. Other agents join us and start discussing what they have observed. So you're having a debrief right now, even when the children were out here?
It's an informal debrief. The main point is just to help the school to improve their measures about the prevention and the emergency procedures. So I think that's the big point of these drills, just to understand what is the major gaps that we have in the schools with help of the seniors, and after that, delivery solutions.
I was at the meeting point. You could hear the alarm well, and they came out, all of them, in a more or less orderly way. There were slower ones and faster ones, but I think it went really well.
I was on the top floor. Everything went well except for one teacher. In classroom 3, the teacher closed the door, but the teacher in the room opposite left the door open. It should be closed, right, Chief? Other than that, it went well.
So, having done that drill and observed how that worked, the senior agents are now going to go into the kindergarten wing of the school and do one of their awareness-raising actions.
This is Grandma Olga, and I'm Grandpa Gennaro. Let's talk about some things, okay?
So the senior agents are showing the children in this class, the kindergarten class, various pictures with dangerous things that kids can do at home and what will happen if they do them. So it's basically a way of preventing accidents at home.
And what's happening here?
Her hair!
That's right, her hair touched the stove and her hair started burning. You can burn your hair.
And then she fell.
And then she fell off the stool.
She fell.
She fell.
The children are all sitting round in a semicircle on the floor. They're clearly enjoying the novelty and are quite focused on the storyboards being held up, sort of big cartoons. And some of them are getting excited.
What is this girl doing?
She's taking some medicines.
These are pills, aren't they? Medicines and pills. You have to tell your parents to put them in a high place so you can't reach them, okay? Because if you eat pills like that, what happens?
You have a stomachache.
Look at the girl. Her stomach is hurting.
I leave Olga and Janeiro and go to speak to the head of the school.
My name is Nuno Trabulo. I'm the responsible for this school.
Yeah, so the sessions in the kindergarten where they're talking essentially about accidents at home, why is it good to have someone come in? Because, of course, the teacher could do the same thing.
It's a different dynamic. The childs are with the teachers. Normally, they pay attention, but when is a person different, they are with more attention.
Maybe they're more polite as well.
Yes, too.
Alison, it sounds like these senior agents are actually playing a very important role here.
Yes, you could see they were taking it seriously and they were finding important safety issues. For example, they realised that you couldn't hear the alarm in all the buildings, which delayed the youngest children in responding. So there was talk then about installing a second alarm to address that issue.
And there were, what, half a dozen agents? How many do they have in total for this program in Amadora?
There are around 40 of them, but they take turns going into a different school around once a month, as well as taking part in other initiatives. They also get training at the start of each year from local emergency workers, as well as going on site visits, like to a police station or a fire station.
I'm just wondering also, why ask older adults? I mean, couldn't anyone just do this?
Well, this was something I asked Luis when I caught up with him in his office.
First, I think they have knowledge, they have experience. The people listen to them and they respect them. And I think that's the critical point for this project.
What about the seniors? Do they get something out of it?
I think they love this project. They learn, I think they felt that this is useful for them too, because otherwise they stay at home doing nothing. So I think they feel that they are useful for the society.
It does bring us back to the conversation that we had at the start of the program about being an active citizen, and what we've heard from the senior agents as well as the kids earlier on shows that you can contribute at whatever age.
Absolutely, and the idea here is catching on. Luis said there's been a lot of interest in Portugal and beyond, and even from as far away as Sydney in Australia, wanting to learn from them.
Well, it's been interesting to hear what's happening in Portugal today. Thank you, Alison.
You're very welcome.
That brings us to the end of the program today, but before we finish, let's get into some of your feedback.
Okay, good evening. You're all doing amazing. I listened to the broadcast yesterday, people fixing the world. So I have solution to stop poverty in my own way. There are some children that were working with bare food. So if we can provide rubber standards that is cheaper for these children to use, I think it's solving problem, stopping poverty, okay? My name is Irene George from Nigeria. Thank you. Bye.
I love the energy, Irene. And yes, a simple solution, giving sandals to those kids, and that could make a difference. I really look forward to hearing your messages every week. So, like Irene, please make sure you send me a WhatsApp voice note or message to the number +44 8000 321 721, or if you would prefer, send an email to peoplefixingtheworld@bbc.co.uk. I'm Myra Anubi, and I'll be back next week with more positive news. Until then, thanks for listening.
To make sense of what's happening in your world, listen to What in the World by downloading the BBC World Service app.
Talk radio. I listen to a lot of talk radio.
95.1 FM.
Today 95.1 FM. Where news meets insight, sports meets passion, and entertainment meets excellence. Expert analysis from seasoned professionals and our top analysts, informing, educating, and entertaining you. Your voice, your station. We are the voice of the people.